For any growing nonprofit, there's this constant tension between two really critical questions. First, how much will compliance cost? And maybe more importantly, what's the risk if we get it wrong? So today, we're going to explore that exact balancing act. We're able to break down these complex topics thanks to our partners at Ironwood Registrations. They specialize in helping nonprofits navigate these very issues. And this is all part of a series we're doing on multi-state fundraising compliance. If you're a nonprofit leader, this question probably sounds very familiar. How much is this going to cost? And honestly, it's a completely natural and practical place to start. But what if the better question is the one that often gets overlooked? See, it's not just about a line item in a budget. It's about the potential fallout from a compliance failure. And that one little shift in thinking, well, it reframes this whole conversation from a simple expense to a critical risk management decision. So let's dive in and start by breaking down this core question. Are we really talking about a cost, or are we talking about a risk? First, let's look at the visible costs. The ones that actually show up on a spreadsheet. Leadership teams are absolutely right to scrutinize these. We're talking about state registration fees, renewal costs, maybe an audit, and of course, the time your own staff is spending on this. These are the expenses you can plan for. And that is such a crucial point. If you only focus on these visible costs, you're missing half of the picture, and you could argue the more important half. So let's actually compare those visible costs with the hidden risks, the dangers that aren't on any budget but can end up being far more severe. What's really interesting here is how this frames the issue. On one side of the ledger, you've got those predictable costs, but on the other, you have these hidden risks, things like late fees, being publicly listed as delinquent, and serious concerns about your reputation. These risks only surface when something goes wrong, and their impact can be so much greater than the initial cost of compliance. Just think about it for a second. Major grant makers and those big corporate donation platforms, they often check your registration status before they approve a partnership or a grant. A sudden compliance lapse can create some serious friction right when you need things to go smoothly. And this brings us to a really key dynamic: growth. As your nonprofit succeeds and expands, the complexity and the risk, it multiplies right along with it. When you're small, maybe only soliciting in one state, handling compliance can be pretty straightforward. It's often a task you can manage with the resources you already have. But once you expand to, say, 10 states, things change dramatically. The informal systems that worked just fine before, they start to crack. You absolutely need a formal structure to keep everything on track. And by the time you reach 20 states, or even more, you're playing in a different league entirely. At this scale, compliance is no longer just a process. It's a core piece of your operational infrastructure. It has to be robust, and it has to be reliable. So why does it get so complex so fast? Well, because each new state isn't just one more item on a to-do list. It's a whole new set of rules, a unique deadline, a different filing format, specific financial thresholds, and its own renewal schedule. The probability of an error just grows and grows. And this really illustrates the core problem of growth. The very systems that served you so well in the early days, maybe a simple spreadsheet or a calendar reminder, can become your biggest liability as you scale up. So this all leads to a crucial strategic shift. You've got to start thinking of compliance not as some administrative chore, but as the infrastructure that actually protects your mission. As your organization grows and becomes more visible, the fundamental question you ask about compliance has to evolve. You move from a cost-focused mindset, how cheaply can we do this, to a risk-focused one, how reliably can we maintain continuous compliance. All of a sudden, reliability becomes the top priority. From a governance perspective, this is the question your board and your executive director need to be able to answer with confidence. It's not about the cost of a single filing. It's about the overall integrity of your entire fundraising operation. Because when you treat compliance as infrastructure, it supports everything else. Your fundraising can continue without any interruptions, your corporate partnerships are stable, you have confidence in your grant reporting, and your board gets that clear transparency it needs. It's kind of like the foundation of a building. You don't really see it or think about it when it's working properly, but you notice its absence immediately when those cracks start to appear in the walls. Ultimately, for any nonprofit fundraising across multiple states, the reliability of your compliance process directly impacts your reputation and your ability to operate. That's why strong oversight isn't just an expense. It's a direct investment in the long-term stability of your mission. And really, what could be more important than that?